What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the RV Files podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about film. Yeah, we're going to be switching it up today, talking about something else other than UFOs. Of course, we're going to get back to that like always, but this channel was always meant for other things as well. And film was definitely going to be one of them. So today, I decided to, I was thinking about what would be the cool first film to do a review on. And I was just thinking about it, and I was like, hey, you know what? My buddy made a film, came out in 2024, and it is called Fragment. Yeah, so Fragment came out in 2024, directed by Robert Vornkoll. Thank you, Robert, for clarifying how to pronounce the last name. Also starring Haley Lipscomb, Nick Jack Slater. What up, Nick? That's my buddy. Also Alyssa Morrison and Robert Donovan. Isolated in her desert home, a computer programmer struggles to cope with the inexplicable occurrences that begin to unravel her reality. So when it comes to the movie Fragment, I give it a watch. I saw it last year. My buddy Nick gave me a copy of it, a physical copy right there. Once again, thank you, Nick. Yeah, and I definitely, I'm a fan of the horror films, horror genre, and this is a sci-fi horror thriller. Definitely lives up to that genre. Awesome movie. I'll start off with some of the positives. I do love the cinematography in this film. The cinematography is absolutely shot beautifully. Everything from the transitions, the atmospheric, dreamy kind of sequences, the color schemes, everything. It just sets the tone for the whole movie and just how beautifully shot it is. And honestly, the way it's shot, it sets up the feelings of like tension and dread and all that stuff. This film follows a couple that seem to be struggling with having a child, and in that whole thing, a bunch of creepy stuff does happen along the way, and people acting certain ways, not acting normal, and it does build up a tension dread. So definitely a movie that has a lot of tension building, and it's pretty much of a slow burn. It's a slow burner of a film. Some people might be turned off by that kind of stuff, but slow burners are my type of deal. So this one definitely has a little bit more of a subtle, eerie feel to it as well. And as the story keeps unraveling, you start seeing more and more strange things happening and people acting even stranger and stranger. And then more characters arrive, and they do not act very normal themselves. And then when you get into later on in the film, as it unfolds what's going on, it's definitely a film up to interpretation. That's one thing as well, and that could be also a turnoff for some people, because I know certain films, people like to have their straightforward horror films and they want it to go from point A to point B. With this one, it definitely does have an open interpretation for that, and I do like those kind of films. They do challenge you in thinking, and especially being a fan of David Lynch, rest in peace, one of the greatest, if not the greatest director of all time. Definitely always did that with his film. And when it comes to that, I do appreciate those kind of films that when you are trying to, create a story that is not so linear, but you can interpret it as what you want it to be. And it does give the horror factors. There are some scares in it, and there are some, twists and turns that do happen, and they happen out of nowhere. Also, too, I want to champion the strong acting in this film. So, especially with Haley, she does an amazing job as a character Lilith. She does show a strong array of different acting skills when it comes to showing happiness, sadness, dread. She does do that also very well. The tension building with her, she knows how to do that very well. And just her acting skills, I believe, are very, very, very good, to be honest. And just showing that in such a film like an independent film like this, it's very good to see some very well acted acting in this whole kind of stuff too. So that's awesome. Also too, got to give props to my buddy Nick Slater. He does play the asshole boyfriend to a T, and that character, you do hate him, and I believe, of course, that's the purpose of his character. You don't like him, you don't know why. He's very subtle in how he's acting throughout the whole film and the way he treats Lilith. So his character is Adam, and Adam just treats Lilith like shit. So he's not a very good person in this film, and the way that Nick portrays it, he does that very well. Even with the minimal kind of lines that he gets in the film, and he just acts a certain way and just cold shoulder kind of dude. So his acting is great, along with Robert and Alyssa, who play Eve and the teacher. Both great actors as well. They do play that eerie role very, very good. And they do, you're just wondering, like, who are they and what's going on with them. As the story unfolds, you start seeing some weird stuff, especially happening on the property. And you just kind of wonder, like, who are they? What's their deal? And, the way that Adam acts with the whole ordeal of, like, meeting them, you just have to watch it because this will be spoiler free and I don't want to ruin it. But yeah, the whole group of how they act towards Lilith is just very unnerving, to be honest. So yeah, there's that. Also too, with Lilith's character, she's programming, I don't know exactly what it is, if it's a new program that she's working on, but she's coding something and she's working back and forth with a person online, and you just don't know. It's one of her coworkers, you assume that, but she's trying to create some kind of a program, and things don't seem to be going so well, ups and downs in that whole thing, and some strangeness happens with that as well. Also want to give huge props on the special effects and makeup. It was really good, for what it was, and also like the digital transitions and everything with the sci-fi elements. It all came together very cohesive and very beautifully. So like, you got some good practical makeup effects that went very well with the digital effects on the whole thing. And especially, like I said, being on an indie film and not knowing really the budget. I don't know what the budget is, but indie films, I can only assume, don't have a great amount of money, but what they had to work with, it did look very good. I mean, I always say that there's indie films and then there's low budget films, and especially in horror, you could definitely tell a low budget horror film because, the filming is terrible, the acting is just atrocious, the gore is so shitty. I mean, you literally have somebody like spraying like a spray bottle of blood like across the room, and it just looks absolutely terrible. And like I said, the acting just looks bad, and it takes you all out of the element of like, this shit does not look believable at all. When it comes to this film though, actually everything, like how it's shot, like I said, the transitions, there's one real cool scene where Lilith is falling and she transitions to another scene, and that I thought was shot very beautifully. A lot of stuff has a lot of nature elements to it, and then there's a lot of blue. And I feel like when the blue stuff happens, you're in for something. And when you start seeing the color blue around and the lighting turns blue, there's some craziness that does happen with it. And I do believe that, like I said, with the whole thing, they did an amazing job with what they had to work with. The shots were great. The acting was great. Storyline, I will say this. This is the one thing that I guess I can say is the hard part. Of course, the story, like I said, is up for interpretation. As it was stated to me with Robert, I had a little conversation with him on Instagram, and I just want him to ask him, like, what do you want the audience to take away from it? And just, he wanted to let you guys know that it's up to interpretation, which is how they wanted the film to be, which is cool. But for me, that does get a little bit hard. I mean, it's one of those where you have to watch over again, because the first time around, you really won't understand what is going on. It's a little bit more complex, especially when it dives into that third act. The third act kind of comes out of nowhere, and you're kind of like, holy shit, like, what is going on? And it does leave you like, wait, what the heck, and like I said, it is one of those movies where it's a slow burner, and things are unraveling, but it's a little bit hard sometimes when it comes to the whole wrap up of everything, which I believe that's a lot of times with a lot of films in general, not just horror, even like dramas. I've seen that in before, but it was just one of those things where it was a little bit of a quick transition and you come from one point to another. And some people might like that. I kind of found it a little bit too drastic of a change, but nonetheless, still great. Also too, in between, there's always this thing with some films, not all, but like a good amount of them do have, like, especially in horror, where the midsection kind of feels like it drags just a little bit, and then it needs to be picked up again. But this one, it does have its moments in between where stuff does happen, and you get that initial surprise. There's some scenes where there's an egg scene where like something unexpected happens. There's a bowl scene where something unexpected happens. It's really cool how that happens. But also at the same time, oh yeah, and there's also a scene in the out when Lilith is doing a jog and some shit happens, and obviously I'm not going to give it away, but I want you guys to watch it for sure. And those are like the little subtle things and creepy things that do happen throughout the film, but I will say that there are moments of a little bit of dragginess, not too much. Then it jumps right back into it, but nonetheless, I will say that Fragment overall is a really good film. Especially, like I said, I always champion independent films. I will not stop saying that. I'll keep saying it over and over again, because I do believe there should be more independent films out there. And I know that this was coordinated with Womp Stomp Films, which did the Never Hike Alone series, and those are great YouTube series online. If you haven't seen any of the Never Hike Alone stuff, I do recommend watching those on YouTube. They're free short films of like the Friday the 13th stuff. So if you're a fan of that, watch those. And then also the Thirsty Well Productions that did with it. So I do think that they did a great job with the whole thing. Like I said, it does not feel low budget. It feels really good. And also too, like I have the physical copy, and even with the physical copy, it looks amazing. So I have the physical copy as well. And I do want to say, even like the packaging is very nice. The cover's cool. In the back you have like all the rave reviews and the awards and stuff like that. Definitely really cool. And even like the menu. The menu looks awesome. Everything about it, I could tell that they put this with love throughout the whole thing. It wasn't just put together for the hell of it. So I'm going to give this score for the film nerds like myself 7 out of 10, just because I do believe that film nerds would appreciate it a little bit more on the side of like the whole cinematography, the whole visual effects and VFX and special effects and makeup effects, and even the audio and the music with it is very cool. So definitely I do want to give props to that. When it comes to the casual fan, I'll give the casual fan maybe a 6 out of 10. I feel like this is one that is going to be a little bit tougher for casual watchers, as I know, like when it comes to sci-fi horror and stuff like that, they're probably expecting something a little bit more different. But nonetheless, I do believe overall a great movie, great production and everything about it. So I just want to say, props to everybody who made this film. Like I said, and also too, I want to also mention that it's free on Tubi to watch. So if you have Tubi's a free app, and you're able to watch this film on Tubi. So you'd have to look up Fragment. There's a few on there, and just to let you know, but look up for the one that has the cover that I have right here, because there's a few movies called Fragment on there, and you might click on the wrong one and say like, what the fuck am I watching? Then also too, it's available on Amazon Prime if you want to get it on there. I do believe you have to purchase to rent, or purchase it in general. So if you want to support independent films like this, I do recommend watching Fragment. And this is my first film review, so hopefully I did pretty well on it. If you like what you see, please like, share, and subscribe, and hit the like button. That does really help on the channel. And I just want to say also too, if you guys have any other recommendations that you have, please leave it on the comments below. I do want to hear some film recommendations, whether it's old or new. I'm definitely into horror, dark drama, dark comedies. I'm not very into romance or straight comedy films. Don't recommend me any of that bullshit. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and hope to see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Have a great weekend, guys.